Testing.
Hey everybody, we're trying this again.
Yeah, sorry about that. YouTube hates my movie. It says we're online at YouTube.
So we're on YouTube this time. Okay. We got it this time, we think.
Nobody look at it. Don't.
Look at it.
No, don't look at us. But don't look at, like, the YouTube link.
Don't breathe heavily.
Don't.
Nobody breathe. Okay. We're going to assume this is working for the moment.
Let's recap.
That we dressed up for you because it's a big night. This is the premiere of Eleanor's documentary called Hard Road of Hope. And everyone should check it out at hardroadofhope.com. Not right now because you're watching this. Focus, everyone.
But because there were some people that messaged me asking if this was a live streaming of the film. It's not. The film is up and available at hardroadofhope.com. So you can go there after this is done and watch it there. So I'm nervous, excited, but so far folks have been happy with it.
Already someone is booing us. I'm not sure why. Maybe because they thought it was a live viewing of the movie.
Or maybe,
Good evening, Jacob.
It was like a preemptive Halloween thing. They think we're dressed up funny. I am. I'm wearing my great-grandfather's top hat. But also another point that we are raising money tonight for Appalachians Against Pipelines, which is an organization that has been fighting for years with a wide variety of badass tactics in Virginia and West Virginia, the Mountain Valley Pipeline, and fracking infrastructures just in general. And they've done incredible work of building solidarity beyond just fracking and beyond, indeed, the fossil fuel industry, building community.
We're going to get to all that.
I'm sorry.
She's trying to give you the whole movie already. But yeah, we're going to get to all that in a few minutes. We want to start off by talking about Minnesota and what's going on there. Also, quick note that last time, on the last live stream a week ago, we raised $486 for mutual aid. So if you're watching on YouTube, you'll see there's a super chat button. You can click the little dollar sign. You can donate $1, $2. And we raised $486 last time for mutual aid. So if we could raise $100 for, I'm not going to pronounce it because I'll pronounce it wrong. Appalachians, right?
No, it's Appalachia. Appalachia.
All right,
and
Appalachia.
as one of the guys in my film, Paul Corbett Brown, who's the head of Keepers of the Mountain, says, if you say Appalachian, we'll throw an Appalachia. Do you get it?
All right.
Do you get it?
Let's hope the jokes get better from here, folks. That was the opening attempt.
He is jealous of my comedic genius.
That is very true. Okay, so before we get to Eleanor's movie, we wanted to talk about what's going on right now because it is such a big story. The protests in Minnesota, yet another killing of an unarmed black man by white cops, just blatantly, suffocating him to death while he says he can't breathe. And look, most of this you can get from your mainstream media. Most of the coverage of that, thank God they're covering that one. Basically, they cover the ones they have video of. So if you see someone being arrested, fucking videotape it, because that's what the mainstream media will cover. If they have video of it, then they care. Otherwise, they don't give a flying fuck who's getting killed around the country. But that stuff you can get on mainstream media, that kind of general analysis. I wanted to give you some stuff that you won't hear on mainstream media, which is a deeper analysis of policing in this country. Police should not be on every block. They shouldn't be running around with guns. They shouldn't be inserting themselves into your lives. That is not what this system, that's what it's become, but it's not what it should be. And really, the only time you should ever call police is if literally there's someone running through your neighborhood with a gun and just murdering people. It's like, okay, I get it that you decided to call police for that. But people call police. This guy was supposedly used a fake 20 or something or forged a check or whatever the fuck. Don't call police for that because they will come and they will kill somebody. Please, I beg you, don't call the cops.
Well, and I think it's also, and I don't want to, obviously, we're going to talk about this on Common Censored as well, so we're not going to spend the whole time talking about this, but also want to bring up the point that we have to look at the history of policing. The police are descended literally from the slave patrol. And there's a great book by Christian Williams called Our Enemies in Blue. And it's a brilliant analysis of the history of policing in this country as well as in England. And like the ideas that were, that have been shared between England and the US. And I just want to share a quote that Christian Williams has in his book towards the end that really speaks to how we can kind of think about policing and how we can step outside of the confines of this, well, that's just how it has to be. He writes, the assumption that the police represent a social inevitability ignores the rules of logic. If we accept that police forces arose at a particular point in history to address specific social conditions, then it follows that social change could also eliminate the institution. It's a bad habit of mind, a form of power worship, to assume that things must be as they are, that they will continue to be as they have been. It soothes the conscience of the privileged, dulls the will of the oppressed. The first step towards change is the understanding that things can be different. This is my principal recommendation, then. We must recognize the possibility of a world without police.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people, because you grow up within a society where cops are on every corner, you kind of, or at least they're frequent, you kind of think that's normal, that that's okay, that that's how it should be. It's really not. It's become that way, but there's no reason that a society can't function without often steroidal, jacked up, usually men on corners with guns. That's not the normal way we should.
Well,
yeah, we think it's normal because.
Thank you,
Reese. By the way, for those who donate, you click the little $sign when you comment. And that is all going to Appalachians for pipelines.
No, against pipelines.
Against pipelines.
Jesus Christ. I'm sorry, everyone. Sorry about him. And in recent history, we can look even closer to today. ICE, for instance, was not a thing until very recently. I forget the exact year that they were formed, but ICE is a very recent yeah. Law enforcement agency. And if you walk around DC, their offices, which are downtown, it looks like they've been there forever because they've got like the columns. They look very official, but they're recent. So the idea that we've always had these institutions whose sole purpose is to serve and protect the interests of the ruling elite and the ruling class is absurd. We don't need them.
I do, for those of you that have seen my latest, oh my God, J9, thank you.
Thank you so much.
That's incredible. We're hoping for $1, $2, but $50, incredible. Everyone, please say thank you to J9 for donating to the cause. But if you saw my latest stand-up special, I talk about the fact that we could have a society where police are literally only there for like mass shooting events. That is their one job. And you could have other things like, okay, let's say we want people not to be speeding on the highway. You could have a whole unit of people designed to stop speeders and to give them tickets. But those people don't need to have guns and they don't need to walk up to the car ready to fire because you wouldn't shoot them because they're ticket givers. It'd be like shooting a mailman. It'd be fucking bizarre. So really, we live in this world where we just assume that these people need to be all over the place, need to give tickets for standing somewhere, for you had your car wheel over a sidewalk, on a sidewalk, you were peeing in a corner over there, here, a ticket. Okay, fine. You want to give out those tickets? Fine. But they don't need to have guns. They don't need to be cops. And anyway, that's...
Thank you, Chuck.
Wow, Chuck, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Chuck's excited for the documentary, and thank you, Nick, as well.
Thank you, Nick. And just for anyone just joining us tonight, we are raising money for Appalachians Against Pipelines. And we are taking your questions. So if you have questions, please do send them along.
I wanted to give some numbers real quick before we leave the policing conversation and move on to the film in a bit. But the police in America kill between 900 and 1,000 people. Some years I know, I got those numbers from NBC News, but some years I know it's been at least 1,200. So 1,000 is not actually the top marker for police killings per year. And the average in Germany is 3 killings per year. And the average.
Thank you, Sam.
Wow, thank you, Sam. The average in Britain is 7, I believe, police killings per year. And we often, our police in America often kill people in the first 2 months or month of the year. Then the British, oh my God, $50. Thank you so much, Christine. The Appalachians will thank you.
Yay,
thank
June,
you.
Thank you.
June, awesome. And she sent a paracharacter as well.
We're gonna have these. It's so if you're looking at this on YouTube, then you probably see the little paracharacter or whatever. But for us here, all we see is the description. So last time I was confused because I thought someone was writing out paracharacter dancing under a rain of confetti and taking his hat off. I thought that's what people were actually typing.
Nick has a good question. What mutual aid did last week's donations go to? Could you give an update, please? Yes, I started at the beginning of this. Some people probably tuned in later that we donated, or people donated $486 last week to mutual aid. So literally people ate dinner this week because of what you guys gave last week. So that's fucking awesome. I'm not like, that's not hyperbole. Like people were able to have dinner
as well.
and medicine and cleaning supplies because you guys donated last week. The mutual went to DC Mutual Aid because we're in DC and Eleanor volunteers a lot for them. And so thank you so much, Nick, and thank you, Eris, for the donation. Have you used the umbrella breaking? No, I have not. But so I was talking about number of deaths, and all the police are charged out of those deaths. So we're talking 1,000 a year, roughly. Out of those deaths, police are charged 1% of the time. Are they charged with anything? Often it's like second degree stuff like that. The actual convictions for murder from 2005 to 2019 was 3 cops out of thousands, roughly 12, 13,000 deaths created by the police in America. 3 cops were convicted. So, it's incredible how they just can kill with impunity, and really there's no ramifications, very little repercussions for it.
Yeah, and as Alexander noted here, the cops started the violence in Minnesota. Cops instigate constantly, whether they're, depending on where they are. A lot of them infiltrate and then start violence that way. And a lot of them will start pushing protesters or tear gassing them. And I just want to make the very clear distinction here that when I talk about violence, I mean violence towards people, because property destruction is not violence. Lighting up a target is not violence. That is property destruction. Well, and if you think that it is looting to fuck up a target, but you don't think that it was looting, stealing the land from indigenous people, if you don't think that it was looting to steal wages, to steal that cops engage in civil asset forfeiture and that kind of things, that is looting. Stealing our right to health care, stealing our wages, that is looting. But fucking up a Target, fucking up a CVS, this is the only way that people are heard. This is the only way that these people can stand up and say that our lives have value. And it's the only time that people listen to them. Because the petitions don't work, the pleas to politicians and police don't work. And
we're not saying go fuck up a CVS, but it is what's the classic quote? If you make nonviolent protest impossible, if you make nonviolent revolution impossible, then you'll end up with violent revolution. So that is what we end up with. Thanks again for people donating.
Thank you so much.
For those of you at Facebook wondering how to do the donations, thanks so much. $15.
Thank you,
Elise. Wondering how to do it. You have to come over. Wow, David, thank you so much. You have to come over to YouTube to do the little donation thing. So if you're watching on Facebook, please join us over at youtube.com/momentofclarity. In fact, I'll type it in here. if you want to keep going.
Yeah, and yes, Rachel, I hope who just typed that my cousin. What?
Clicked away.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
My cousin is going out after curfew. Stay safe, Minneapolis. Yeah, we have some friends in Minneapolis. Manar Mahawish, who is the editor-in-chief of Mint Press News, which is a great alternative media outlet. She was saying that she's never seen Minneapolis like this, and she lives in Minneapolis, so it's really intense there. But again, it's as Martin Luther King noted, a riot is the language of the unheard. And I think that we have to recognize and respect a diversity of tactics, even if you don't want to partake in them. We have no right. One of my favorite quotes is from Cherie Foytlin, who's an Afro-Dene activist and organizer who organized the resistance against the Bayou Bridge pipeline in Louisiana. And she said that you have no right to tell a rabbit how to get out of the jaws of a coyote. That's not your job. Your job is to help get that fucking rabbit free. And so the idea that folks can sit there and be like, well, I disagree with that tactic, but it's not your lives on the line. It's not your life being threatened by the police who are descended from slave patrols. So I think it's important that we show solidarity, even if we don't personally 100% agree with those tactics. Spoiler alert, I do, but to each their own. But I think that that's an important point to make. And I wanted to also find
wow, thank you.
Quote.
Thank you, Patrick.
Thank you so much, Patrick. Again, folks, all of the donations tonight are going to Appalachians Against Pipelines, who have been fighting the Mountain Valley Pipeline.
Wow, Claire, thank you, $20.
Thank you, Claire. Yes, Nick, we did hear that the cop who killed George Floyd in Minnesota was arrested. But that really speaks to the power of the people, the power, that adage that our masters have a master, and that's fear. And so I think it's a really powerful representation of what we have the power to do. I will also point out that this charge, manslaughter, third degree, what was it, is some bullshit. That's ridiculous.
Well, and the other thing,
and they only did it to try and shut people up.
Well, yeah. The other thing is that they have learned how to deal with this when people rise up, when they get angry. And what they do is they charge the cop. First of all, they fire the cops, so they're not on the police force. But then they charge them with something. And then almost inevitably, they are fully exonerated, or they're acquitted, or the trial doesn't go forward. Or, I mean, look at what happened with Freddie Gray in Baltimore. This happens again and again. Or the police officer that killed in Ferguson. What's the name of Ferguson? Michael Brown. I
thought you meant the cop. I'm like, I don't know. Who cares?
Yeah, no, fuck the cop. But
Dickweed.
yeah, Officer Dickweed. But so they ultimately do charge them with something, but then they end up letting them off anyway. Usually, like I said, 3 police officers out of over 12,000 murders between 2005 and 2019, 3 police officers convicted of murder. So it's almost unheard of. That's something like 0.02% of the time. So really, these cops have nothing to worry about if they choke the life out of someone. That being said, I think soon we should move on to the movie.
Yeah, I just wanted to say this last piece. This was something that a badass friend of mine once told me. She said, "Don't look for trouble, but don't run from injustice. Don't look for a fight, but if they only speak to you in violence, know how to answer back." And it's really telling, again, that in this country, that Black folks, anytime that Black folks try to fight back, anytime that Black folks try to engage, and I shouldn't just say Black folks, Black and Indigenous folks, anytime they try to engage in self-defense, it is seen as violence. Yeah, so I just wanted to share that little thing.
Something I was going to, speaking of violence, something I was going to say earlier that I didn't get a chance to is that, and you kind of said it, I just wanted to, make it a little more clear, is that it is violent. We need to talk about this differently. It is violence when homes are repossessed or whatever. People are evicted. Yeah, that is stealing. That is to the homeowner. And keep in mind, millions of people were kicked out of their homes after the 2008 crash, which was predatory lending. The banks couldn't even prove they owned the homes, and they were still kicked out of their house. And what to the homeowner, to the person whose family is booted on the street, does it matter whether that house was burned down violently or they were kicked out and the board was put up saying owned by bank? There's no difference. They lost their home. So that's equivalent violence. A CVS burning is equivalent violence to the bank taking someone's house that they have no right to take. So I think we just need to talk about those things differently, because we act like, oh, the bank repossessing houses or whatever, stealing houses is not violence. It is. And the same goes for, you mentioned healthcare. The same goes for charging people exorbitant fees for healthcare, trying to help their kids, trying to keep their kid alive, and that is violence. So we should call that violence. And your leaders, quote unquote, your politicians won't ever say that. They won't ever call it violence, because they largely have to be kind of in bed with the healthcare. Even those who want Medicare for all are still have to be kind of friendly with healthcare and insurance companies and shit like that. So,
yeah, I mean, it is. Oh, and yes, Jarrett, that was the other point that I wanted to note. Oops. ACAB, and for folks who don't know what that means, that is all cops are bastards. And there's a brilliant point that was made when I was talking to somebody about this issue, and the idea is it's not that all cops are bastards because everyone decides to become a cop because they're an asshole. It means that cops are only there to serve and protect the interests of the ruling class. They're not there for you.
A lot of them don't even realize that.
Well, of course, a lot of them. Thank you so much. A lot of them,
Thank you, Amers.
So the entire function of the police, again, descended from slave patrols, is to protect the property and the quote unquote rights to oppress of the ruling class. So when we say all cops are bastards, what we mean is when you put on that uniform and you become the agent of the ruling class to serve and protect them, you are a bastard, regardless of who you were before. And that is something that an angle that we need to embrace and really think about. Like, what does that mean to become an agent of the ruling class that is oppressing us? And I think that's a conversation that is important to have as we move forward. So,
and have these, I'd say, if you have it in you, if you're a diplomatic person and a police officer, or you are able to chat with one in a normal conversation and it's not under the end of at the end of a barrel, I think you could talk to them in a kind of respectful way and try and educate them, try and explain to them what it is that they really, because most of them, I think that they're stopping crime, and they're, I'd say whatever, 70% of them or something think they're stopping crime who aren't white supremacists, think they're stopping crime and they're protecting the city and shit like that. They are not well educated on what really is going on, the core issues of our country and our world, and so you could help educate them.
Yeah, and again, we could talk about this forever, but I want to get one more point in that you mentioned that. I think it's what was I going to say? Oh,
you want me to tell you?
No. As white folks in this moment, I think we can feel kind of like lost, like, well, I'm not really sure what to say or do.
Thanks again, Nick.
Thank you, Nick. And I think right now, one example, if you're able and willing to go to a protest, I saw some really powerful work happening in Louisville, where folks were protesting the murder of Breonna Taylor, which is another completely absurd murder by the cops of a Black woman. But what folks were doing, there were white protesters who were standing in front of Black and brown folks, literally using our privilege as a tool. And important to note here too, when I say privilege, I don't mean that as a white person you've had an easy life. I mean that your life wasn't hard because of the color of your skin.
Plenty.
That's what that means.
Plenty of white people have had very rough lives. It just wasn't because of the color of your skin.
Right. And and my film talks about this too. Like, the people of West Virginia, which is predominantly white, have been completely beaten down by industry. And no one would say, oh, what a wonderful life you've had. No, but white privilege just means that your life has not been difficult because of the color of your skin. And it means that because of the color of your skin, certain things are available to you that wouldn't be if you were Black or brown or indigenous. So that's an important point to make. And I think as white folks, an important thing to do in this moment is to think about how we can use our white privilege in a way that's useful. And one of those ways is to reach out to your white friends, to your white family members, and have these tricky discussions. Because another thing that a friend of mine told me, who is a former Black Panther, she said that everyone is racist in this country. You can't help it. And it's a spectrum. And anti-racist work is constant. You have to keep doing it. And so it's very important that we recognize that this is ongoing work. It's ongoing and it's difficult. And I think it's really important in these times to reach out to fellow white folks and have these discussions and have these conversations about what it means to be a white person in this country. Sorry, I'm babbling.
you had a good run there.
Keep fucking going.
You had a great run. No, it's okay. No, I just wanted to address the Nick's comment that we had up there earlier, and thank you again for donating, Nick. But I had not read this, so people have to verify it. But anything I say, you should verify as well. But Nick says that George Floyd and the cop who killed him worked as security at the same club up until last year. And I had not heard that. If that's true, that makes things a whole new level of fucked up, because that means this cop was probably doing this out of some sort of personal vendetta, which fucked up either way. But
I've heard that too. I haven't heard whether that's been verified, but I've also heard that. But yeah, where are we?
We're going to move on to the movie. Talk about the movie.
Okay.
So for those of you, most of you know, but some of you joined later, Eleanor's film, new documentary, just came out. It's about an hour of awesome, it's a great film on the what's going on in West Virginia. It's coal mining country, and you went there and talk a little bit. And by the way, all of you who are clicking the $sign and donating a little for your comments, that's fucking awesome, and all of it is going to a cause that's connected to the movie. So please keep doing that. If you want to comment, maybe just donate $1 or something, and help us donate all the money. Like every dollar is going to every dollar of the proceeds is going to Appalachians Against Pipelines. But I want to hear a little bit about what it was like filming it and what the trip was like. You went to West Virginia, and how long did you stay there?
It was roughly 2 weeks. And at the time I wasn't thinking of doing a documentary. I was there with two other badass journalists. And we were just trying to get a handle on what was going on in West Virginia, both in terms of coal and fracking. So what's happening in West Virginia right now is it's kind of, there's kind of like a shift happening. King coal is dying, and fracking is rising, and using many of the same tactics that King Coal used to oppress and to extract resources from the people there. So basically, I wanted to shift the story. Thank you, Watson. I wanted to shift the story because I'm sorry,
That's all right. Oh, it's not highlighting.
Oh, well, Watson, we're trying to highlight.
Watson donated.
There we go.
Thank you, Watson.
Anyway, and Sam, how do you donate with a comment? You just go to youtube.com/momentofclarity and you can click on
where you type in your comment, right below it, there's a little gray $sign, and you click that, and it will ask you how much you want to give. So that's how people do it.
And hit the like button, yes. But anyway, if folks, especially in the South, I don't know if other folks watching this grew up in the South, but I did. And West Virginia was just always the butt of the joke. And coming from North Carolina, that's saying quite a bit. And of course, it's unwarranted. It's become the butt end of these jokes, predominantly because of the propagandization and the isolation of West Virginia. West Virginia is the second most rural state in the nation. It's also the third poorest. And it has fewer people than the borough of Brooklyn. And so this is a really, thank you.
Oh my God, thank you guys so much.
And he is not happy that you're live streaming at the same time as your show.
So yes, my Redacted Tonight is also premiering right now over on the other YouTube channel. Whoops. But I figured that most of you don't watch it like the moment it premieres.
Well, apparently he does.
Apparently he does. You probably watch it.
I'm sorry, I shouldn't say. I don't actually know.
Most of you watch it later, so please go watch Redacted Tonight after this.
Later, and then you can watch my film after. You can have a whole Friday
whole evening.
Yeah, it'll be awesome. But thank you so much for donating, and love that comment. Yeah, I mean, we'd be watching Moment of Clarity, or I'm sorry, we'd be watching Redacted Tonight right now if it weren't for this. Thank you so much, Ricardo. Down with capitalism.
Whoa, Ricardo,
Amen.
$20. Thank you, Ricardo.
Thank
awesome.
you so much. And thank you, Chris. Really appreciate it. Thank you all. Heathen, dig it. I too am a heathen. This heathen would also like to know why.
This seems to be an ongoing debate as to why.
We're not doing this again.
Seems to be an ongoing debate as to why the fuck I would do this. I wasn't really thinking about it.
It's my fault because I decided to release my film on this day.
But
so
I will.
Really
I will tell you this. I am very tired. No, we filmed the show on Thursday nights. So I filmed it last night, and it's airing right now.
And my film is not airing at any time. It's available for streaming.
I thought you aired it live. I thought your film was live.
I'll tell you, that one-woman show wearing all those costumes, exhausting. So West Virginia has, and I put this on
but what I think is important, because most of these people don't live in West Virginia, even though it's the people you talk to are very important, but the film works for any state and anywhere. It's not really about West Virginia, although it is.
Well, that's kind of the point.
It is a symbol of all of America, of how areas have been exploited in their various ways. In Michigan, there's fucking toxins in the water from Dow Chemical, and the lead in the pipes, and go to California, and there's people, dealing with toxins and methane and pollution in the air, and people getting cancer because of the pollution in the air. Any state in the union, you deal with the corporate onslaught of exploiting people, exploiting workers, leaving their lives in ruin. Louisiana's another one. A lot of these are in corporate sacrifice zones where the people are poor or they're people of color. Therefore, they don't have as much political power. And the corporations know they can exploit that. They know they can exploit those people. People will they'll take jobs to dig their own graves if they're offered money to put food on their table. And that's what a lot of this is. And I feel like this movie is an example of the entirety of America.
Yeah, and that's a great point. And Megan, y'all can't see her whole comment here, but Megan makes the point that when the mine is the only employer, hungry people don't really have a choice of safe working environments. I wish I were employed and could donate. Thank you so much, Megan, for your comment. And yeah, I mean, that really echoes what you were saying, Lee. And this is the point, that first of all, I want to touch on the point that you made that when people, that West Virginia is an example of the rest of the nation, right? And I actually
Nick.
I write this on the website. I have to make a note for myself, otherwise I'm going to forget things.
Thank you, Angel. Thank you.
I'm scrolling. I'm gonna scroll.
Nebulra.
Thank you, Nick. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody.
Bernie's doing a live stream. Whatevs. I didn't really mean that, kind of, maybe. Angel, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Yay. You guys are awesome.
Also, Nick asked how to watch your movie, hardroadofhope.com.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Hardroadofhope.com.
Back to what you were saying.
And it's available on a sliding scale starting at $5. And if that's not available to you, then please message me and we'll find a way to get you the film. So first off, I want to talk about how, and it's Nebulira. Thank you. There you go. If it makes you feel any better, someone once called me Elmer. So, the point that
thank you, Moki.
So the idea being that West Virginia is an example of everywhere else, because if we're going to talk about West Virginia as just a throwaway state with a bunch of hillbillies and a bunch of people who don't have access to education, it's already been destroyed by corporate malfeasance. Isn't that everywhere? Show me anywhere in the United States that hasn't been used as a pawn for corporate malfeasance. And so I think that that's an important point, and to the point that both you, Lee, and Megan made, that you don't have a choice. It really speaks to the fact that that a lot of times organizers have completely the wrong angle when they go about these things. Organizers, and I talked to some folks who, one former coal miner said that, environmentalists seem to think that we don't talk to people about, climate change, or that, that we're idiots. But we're not. We just don't know what else to do. Like, you don't have a choice. It's either you watch your family starve or you work in a coal mine. And if those are your only choices, I think that everybody watching this would make the choice to work in a coal mine. And so this idea that we have to do a better job of reaching out to these folks and building alternatives together, as opposed to just shitting on people because they're trying desperately to survive. Yeah. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yes, Sam, the donations are only available via YouTube. So if you go to youtube.com/momentofclarity, then you can go type a comment. Underneath where you type a comment, there's a $sign, and you can donate via that.
Wow, Bob, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Bob, for your parrot character sliding on the floor on his knees saying goal.
This is what it looks like.
Okay.
Now you finally got to see it. Your world has changed.
It has. I'll never be the same. But yeah, and I think that one of the things that was really important to me was that I not tell these stories, but amplify the stories that other people are telling. Because I can't fucking tell these stories. I'm not from West Virginia. I don't live there. And I think that it's important to not try and tell people's stories, but allow them to tell their stories themselves.
So pipelines are rippling across this entire country. I mean, we really are Swiss cheese now. Everybody's a pipeline under their fucking house. Explain the harm of pipelines.
Well, so there are different kinds of pipelines, but for instance, the pipelines in fracking country in West Virginia. And you can see this in the documentary. It looks, the fracking infrastructure doesn't look as bad from the air, for instance, as mountaintop removal. But the thing to keep in mind that every time you put up a frack pad, which is basically just a pad where you have wells that will frack into the ground, you have to build pipelines in order to get the whatever you get out of that fucking fracking pad. You have to build pipelines in order to get that material out. And so every time, I was talking to somebody from Frack Tracker about this, that every time you see a frack pad, there's 16, 20 miles of pipeline that have to be laid. So the amount of pipelines laid for, these hundreds of frack pads is astronomical. And these are all pipelines that then require...
Thank you, Patricia.
Thank you. And these are pipelines that require things like compressor stations. And so I was talking to a couple that live in West Virginia about how they live in West Virginia. They loved the nature. And then all of a sudden a compressor station rolls in, and these are oppressively loud. If you've ever heard them, they are amazingly loud. And she made the point that it sounded like living next door to a truck stop with the 18-wheelers running all the time. And so your peaceful, West Virginia natural area has now turned into a truck stop. And of course, on top of that, you still have the poisoning of water, the poisoning of the air. They have, their trees are dying, animals are dying, people are getting sick. And in a way, it's much more insidious than coal mining, because coal mining, you can see it. And you can see the coal ash settling on desks. One of the guys in the film told me as we were sitting outside his house about kids in a local school that would every morning come in and wipe coal ash off the top of their desks that had settled just overnight.
And thank you, Aspie.
Thank you.
Can't remember what I was going to say, but I appreciate it, Aspie. I was going to say, the film is not just about everything that's gone wrong for these people, because it is a lot. And I know that if you guys are joining us here, then you care about these stories and you watch Redacted or other things and learn about what's going on in the world. but it's also about fighting back. And I found some of that stuff in the film really fascinating. If you want to explain the redneck story.
Oh, yeah. So regardless of where you grew up, but I used to think that redneck was a total, like, derogatory.
We were called rednecks where I grew up.
I
grew up in the capital of Confederacy, and my name is Lee. And we were called rednecks by some people.
Okay. So redneck has.
I found it offensive. Didn't like it.
You done? For the moment?
I'm the interrupted redneck.
Okay. J9, thank you again so much.
Wow, J9, thank you.
And yes, this point, I grew up in the conservative mantra in Mormonism. It is a fight every day to remove all that garbage out of my head. At least I raise my kids with critical thinking skills. And they call me out if I have a bad take. Yes, amen. And thank you so much. And I completely, I was not raised very conservatively, but I definitely recognize.
Thank you, Connie.
I definitely recognize that it's a constant. We're all works in progress, and the work of anti-capitalism, anti-racism is constant. So thank you so much for sharing that.
Redneck story.
I'm working on it. Christ on a cracker. Okay. Yes. So redneck. Redneck originally comes from a totally radical fucking story. So I love this story because it seems totally unbelievable. Carl, thank you so much.
Oh, wait.
And no,
how do I donate to the Sober Chat? You just did.
It was not, he said, just kidding. It was not Lee who called me Elmer. Because if he did, he'd get a slap on the face. So redneck comes from southern West Virginia during the mine wars.
Tabbycat got it. Tabbycat.
Yeah. Okay. I'm getting there.
She's working her way.
Yeah. So, well, the fucking interrupting over here.
I do not interrupt. I interject with important points from down south.
Anybody got a muzzle? I have a ball gag, but it's dirty. I am from Charlotte, North Carolina. And
Sweden, by way of Sweden.
And Sweden, but that's not in the South, so that's not applicable.
I know.
But yes, I grew up partially in Sweden and partially in North Carolina. This is another false story about where the term redneck comes from, but actually it comes from southern West Virginia and also which is on the border of Kentucky as well. And what happened is basically the mine workers, despite the best efforts of the coal mining barons to divide and conquer, they would separate mine workers based on where they're from and based on race, and they would try to talk shit about them to each other. Like, oh, well, the Jews eat babies, so you don't want to talk to them, and the blacks are savages, and these folks from like Romania, they're so basically what mine workers did was they overcame this bullshit propagandization and worked together. They tied on red bandanas and they marched together. They shot at wealthy coal mine industry barons. And not only did they not get hanged, they actually won some basic workers' rights. And this is part of the mine wars, the Matewan Massacre, Blair Mountain. And this is really where the term redneck comes from. So originally, redneck is incredibly fucking radical. It is a radical term that means that you are down to fucking fight for basic human rights for everybody that you're in solidarity with against the ruling class, that you are building solidarity as a worker, as part of the, a part of the oppressed. And so that was a really powerful name that they took on with pride. And one of the things that I cover in the film is that folks at the Mine Wars Museum in Matewan are bringing it back. And, they sell red bandanas that say we're proud rednecks, and I got one too. So yeah, this is an important piece of history that's being brought back. Andrew
makes a good point. He says, we want better, safer jobs. I thought there are enough jobs forever. Yeah, a job is anything that our government, meaning, our society, the idea initially was that our government would actually represent the people. That was part of the idea. A job is anything that people will pay for. So yes, some of it comes from, all right, people want to buy things, so that is a job because you can have them pay for buying things. But also, our government gives people jobs building roads, fixing the roads, fixing the bridges. You could have jobs planting billions of trees. You could have jobs cleaning our waterways. We could have all of those jobs, and everybody would have great jobs, except we choose not to, because our government has been captured by corporations, and therefore the jobs are all in oil and fracking and coal and basically ways to destroy the world that are very profitable. And we act like those are the only jobs. So then the oil company says, hey, we'd like to come into your city and we're going to bring lots of jobs. And everybody goes, oh, great. Let's get those jobs. But of course, we're destroying our own future. You're destroying your own area, your society, your lives, your children's futures. So yes, the whole jobs argument is fucking horseshit, where all these politicians run around and go, I'm going to bring jobs. And you're like, why can't we fucking build a positive society that's actually like green energy and shit like that? No. Only oil pipelines. Those are the only jobs we have. Just fucking oil.
Yeah, and what's your joke? Like, you could get a job, you could make a job like giving herpes to people if you really wanted to.
One of my stand-up jokes is the job is anything you pay people to do for you. You have a job giving everyone herpes if you pay the guy.
It's terrible,
so.
But it's true, and it really speaks to and this is another thing that's covered in the film, the fact that there's never jobs for trying to clean up a creek that's been poisoned by coal slurry, for instance. There's never a job when people want to rebuild their home place. There's only a job when you want to destroy that home place, right? When you want to decapitate these mountains, when you want to dump coal sludge in valleys next to mountains. So it's really important that we recognize the propaganda there, and this is powerful work that's happening in West Virginia as well, making that distinction between what is a job and what could be a job.
And then there's another step which OSHA's talking about that I also have talked about a bunch, which is an evolution of humanity, where we start to realize, like, unless you're passionate, like, we now live in a post-scarcity world, which means if it was actually dealt with correctly, everyone could have food. We throw out 40% of all food. Everyone could have food. Everyone could have shelter. Everyone could have clothing. We could be living a society like that. Thank you, Baron.
Thank you.
And you wouldn't have to work endlessly in jobs you hate. Yes, if you're passionate about something, great, do it. But if you're not, there's no reason we have to live that way. So this is an evolution that I think it'll take a while for humankind to get to. But there's no reason we should have to give away most of our lives, a large percentage of our lives, to jobs we hate. Yet there's no politician that'll even say that. I think AOC said it once, and I'm hoping she saw it in my stand-up comedy special. But she said it once about evolving past endless jobs. But no politician really has that as their platform. My joke about it is that basically we're a bunch of hamsters on treadmills, and they're slowly taking away the treadmills. And so the hamsters, we get on fewer and fewer treadmills, and we beat the fuck out of the other hamster, and we kick him off, and then we fucking run on our treadmill. And our politicians come forward and go, I'll bring back the more treadmills. And we go, yay! And another one says, I'll bring back more and faster treadmills. And we go, yay! And no one says, why are we running on the treadmills? You can't even have the conversation. It's like you can't have the conversation about how there should be 90% fewer police. Like, you can't have these conversations, which is the success. Well, hold on. It's the success of the mainstream corporate media. They have succeeded in making our debate, our box of debate, our window of debate, the Overton window. They've succeeded in making this tiny little thing that you're allowed to debate in. And if you say something out here, everyone goes, you're out of your fucking mind. I don't even understand what you're saying. So.
Yeah. And,
wow, thank you so much, people donating.
Thank you. And for those of you who didn't hear where the money is going, the money is going to Appalachians Against Pipelines, which is a group that is fighting the Mountain Valley Pipeline and doing a lot of great work fighting fracking and the fossil fuel industry in general. So, I mean, absolutely, this idea that we have to have jobs to survive, when in reality...
Thank you, Carl.
Thank you, Carl. Do either of you or anyone you know ever receive a telegram? It would be such a cute thing.
That's a bizarre thing to say, but thank you.
It's totally bizarre, but it's a great question. When my grandmother died, I looked through a bunch of the telegrams that she and my grandfather got on their wedding day, and that was like one of the most adorable things I've ever done in my life. But yeah, and
I am your singing telegram, like that type of thing.
Yeah. But it would be a totally romantic gesture. I just don't even know if you can send one. However, I will say that I have several pen pals, and I think that that is incredibly awesome to get a letter in the mail, because you just don't get those anymore. But yeah, sort of looping back to the jobs thing, people feel that they have to have a job to get basic human rights, which is it's fucking absurd, right? Because basic human rights like homes, shelter, healthcare, basic foods, that is a human right and should be available to everyone, regardless of whether you have a job or if you don't. Because here's the thing, even if everyone wanted to work, not everyone can work, right? And this is a point that if you agree that a society is only as good as how it treats the people, at the bottom rungs of society, well, then what are you going to do about the people who can't work, who are elderly or disabled or things like that? Well, then you should make sure that they have basic human rights to survive. Well, then where does that stop? Do only certain people have rights to housing and health care? Of course not. Those should be basic human rights for fucking everyone, which then leads to the fact that you shouldn't have to have a job to access basic human rights at all, regardless of who you are and where you exist on the sort of spectrum of being able to work.
Click the wrong one. Michael says Spain just approved a basic income for all citizens.
I saw that.
I hope they keep it after the pandemic. I know some countries are doing it just during the pandemic. That would be pretty cool if they keep it going. We have I think we'll go for another 15 minutes. I would love to get another $100 for Appalachians against pipelines. What if I was like Appalachians Against Pope Lines? And
Well,
you're like, well, you mispronounced pipelines, but you got the first
That's
part.
fine,
So.
as long as you don't mispronounce Appalachia, because that shit is...
I'm actually a member of Appalachians Against Popes. Not a fan.
I'm not a fan of popes.
Popes in general, although this latest one's not bad. He has criticized capitalism, so
Comparatively,
I guess, No.
Compared to like the ones that were
right.
Cool
It's like being a police
Holocaust.
officer. It's like being a police officer that hasn't murdered someone. Comparatively, not bad. But I'd love to get another $100 for the cause. All the money from you. So you click the little dollar sign. All the money, just $1, $2. If you are able to give, all the money goes to a great cause and supports something that Eleanor has made a whole movie about, because it is incredibly important, and I think it represents like every American society. Well, David just handled the whole $100.
Holy shit!
Holy shit, David!
Wow.
All right. Well, then I'm going to make it $150 just for that. No, thank you, David. That's
Wow,
incredible.
thank you so
Bob
much.
just gave 20.
Bob, thank you.
All right, so we're already at 120 more after I made the and $1.
Awesome.
Thank you, Stephen.
Wow.
We're already at 121 more. So I'd love to get to 200 then. But it really is incredible. And next week, we're going to try and do these every week. The time may vary a little, but keep up to my email or my Twitter, and I'll try and let you guys. Thank you, Tarana. $10 as well.
Thank you so much.
I'm going to try and let you guys know, but we'll let you know how much we made for this cause next week, because this is incredible.
And here's the question. What's your opinion on using COVID-19 to push artificial intelligence and other oppressive policies? Yeah, I mean the surveillance.
I'm a fan of oppressive policies.
The surveillance state
I like them a lot.
Has definitely been pushed out there as a way to, contact tracing. Oh, we need to make sure that, this person doesn't infect a lot of other folks. So yeah, that's definitely been used as an example, and you're going the wrong way.
I know.
Oh.
Leave me be. Leave me to my own devices.
So I think that it's super important that we stay vigilant on that and not be like, oh, well, that's nice that we can just kind of contact trace with all of the surveillance infrastructure, and then we'll just sit back and let that shit be. So it's really, it's definitely important to raise that issue, and fuck the surveillance state. Yeah.
And this is this is standard shock doctrine. The pandemic is a shock to our system, to our lives, to our understanding as how the world and society works. And so the wealthy, the oligarchs, the controllers of this system, thank you, Stephen. They use it to get things that they wanted anyway. And so they're using it for surveillance. And artificial intelligence used in a positive way could be well done. But as even Elon Musk has said, artificial intelligence, if we don't rein it in, if we don't put in strict rules about it, it will, destroy whatever remains of our society. Because everything will be AI eventually, to the point that, whether you get out of jail, completely decided by computers. There's no human beings there. And by the way, our mutation. Our artificial intelligence is often programmed by people who are being racist in the programming. Thank you, Adam.
Thank you, Adam. Oh wow, chilling here in Minneapolis. Please stay safe.
Stay safe.
And I saw a question.
Anyway, those are my thoughts on
David said, will you answer my question? But I don't see your questions.
Please. I didn't think David had a question. Which David?
I don't know.
Because David Schaff is the one who gave $100. So I would answer his question if I saw what it was.
Yes.
But
yeah. Well, now I've lost my train of thought.
Well, anyway, David, you can put your question up again you don't have to donate again. Just go ahead and put it up and we'll try and answer it.
Occupy Appalachia. Yeah, well, that's definitely happening. And I recommend that folks check out Appalachians Against Pipelines. They've done incredible work with a variety of badass tactics like tree sits, tremendous ground support, and campaigns to really spread the word and save Appalachia from the Mountain Valley Pipeline.
Thanks, Carl, for the donation.
Thank you, Carl.
Is it true that Chris Hedges dropped his candidacy for the Green Party because of his show on Contact? Yes, he stated that he found out. So Chris Hedges, for those of you who don't know, Chris Hedges announced he was going to run for Congress as a Green Party member in New Jersey. And within a day, I think, he then pulled out because he found out that the FCC will not allow you to run for Congress and have a TV show. And he believes the media platform is too important to lose. So he decided not to run and is going to keep his TV show. Obviously, that's his personal decision. But that does sound like, an FCC rule. I thought it was a rule even before. I was actually surprised when he announced because I was like, does this mean he's not doing his TV show? But anyway.
Okay, and this was the question from David.
What
jobs do the oligarchs have? If by that you mean what does Jeff Bezos do? I don't actually know what the fuck he does. I don't think he does anything.
I think you're making a good point that their jobs are fucking meaningless.
Well, their jobs are to steal the profits from the labor of the working class, right?
And to have their balls waxed by a team of people they've hired.
Wait, that's the Lewis Black joke, the personal ball washer. It's not waxing, it's washing.
I put a twist on it.
What, like wax on, wax off? I don't understand. How do you do that?
You whack on, whack off. Sorry, go ahead. You walked right into that one.
You're terrible. But yeah, so absolutely, this is the point, right? Like, some of our friends who have the show Loud and Clear have made the point several times that if Bezos just didn't fucking show up for work, no one would notice because he's not packing boxes in the fucking Amazon warehouse. He is literally he might become the world's first trillionaire because he's stolen the profits of the labor of the people who are forced via economic force to work for him in these atrocious conditions. And, you know, of course, this stems into other conversations about how Bezos is rich, not just from stealing those wages, but also from double or triple dipping into subsidies that are given to Amazon because everyone thinks Amazon's so great, so they pay them billions of dollars to come to their city. And then, of course, he pays starvation wages. So then the workers have to go to the system and ask for things like the SNAP food program. And so then Bezos is getting paid by the government because he's not paying them a living wage so that they can actually afford food and rent. So, yeah.
By the way, thank you all. We did get to the $150 more to Appalachians Against Pipelines.
I like how you say it very staccato.
Well, now you have me.
Don't fuck up.
Now you have me like caught up on it. I can't.
Yeah. So I think that it's. I think right now is somebody earlier made the point that or asked the question: could right now be a powerful time to kind of question the system as a whole? And I think that it absolutely could be.
Wow, Carol, thank you.
Thank you, Carol. Hasn't shown up on my screen yet, but I'm just parroting lead on this.
You gotta want it. You gotta really feel Carol and know her.
I want the pair dancing in a tutu or whatever the fuck.
Apparently they only let you have pairs.
Oh my God. Why are you with the bad jokes today? I
feel like I'm being roasted on my own live stream. This is not fair.
Hey, you made fun of my Appalachian joke.
That wasn't yours.
Mine via proxy, okay? And this is, Christine actually brings up an interesting point that those who can should absolutely boycott Amazon. But there's a point here too that, like, for instance, in West Virginia, thank you, highlighting the, God damn it.
Yes, Baron, I was heckled by my co-host.
I didn't mean to highlight that. This is the website where you can get the film. What was I saying? Oh, that Katie, thank you so much.
Wow, Katie, awesome.
Thank you.
You're the best.
Showing support. Really, really appreciate it. So, like in West Virginia, for instance,
Tara.
Thank you, Tara. Even if you wanted to go somewhere else other than Walmart, good luck, and so this really speaks to the fact that poor people are forced into going to these horrific stores and being patrons of these stores, and then they're given shit for being patrons of these stores when they have no choice. And so this really speaks to the idea of not allowing these kind of monopoly situations to grow in the first place. There shouldn't be only one available store that is owned by a family like the Waltons. That's the only place that you can fucking go. That's absurd. And so that really speaks to...
Do not highlight that one. Damn it.
It's only
Thank
funny.
you for the $2, but you could have given more if you're gonna insult me like that.
It's actually not $2. It's British pounds. That's more than $2.
Whose side are you on?
Well, I'm not like on the British side. I'm just saying that's an economic fact.
Whose side are you on?
But he's only saying that because you're hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
And that was just one bad joke. Oh yeah, and this is another point. Please, if there's a local bookstore in your area, fucking go there. Don't order books off of Amazon. Although if you need to order books online, do check out.
I love books. I'm reading this one. I don't know what it's about, but I'm looking forward to enjoying it. Let's see here. What a good book this is. I am so glad I picked up this book.
Thank you, Sarah. Lee, would you like to tell the class what you're reading? Would you like to share with the class?
It is just a book I found that happens to have an intro by Jimmy Dore and a foreword by Chris Hedges. We were just talking about him. This is a lovely book.
Would you like to expound?
Check out my book, everybody. Bullet Points and Punchlines.
Bullet Points and Punchlines. It's a fucking amazing book.
But we're not on that. We're on your movie, which, so we have about three to 5 more minutes. If anybody else wants to give, this is all going to a great cause. But the movie, which you all should watch, is at hardroadofhope.com. Wow, Carl, another $20. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Hardroadofhope.com. Even if you are, there's a sliding scale, and even if you have decided, no, I hate movies, I will not watch it, please share it anyway, because it's an important movie.
Yeah, and Carl, thank you so much. And I would definitely not say that it's cowardly to not participate in protests. There are a lot of ways to support. One of my favorite images, and I haven't been able to find it, but it was an image of somebody rearing their hand back, and I think it was like throwing a stone or something like that, or like throwing a tear gas canister back at the cops, and behind them were all these.
Holy shit, Christine!
Thank you so much, Christine. We're all of these echoes, these sort of like imprints of people that weren't actually there, but we're supporting. Street medics, child support, social media teams, mental health support. All of these roles that aren't necessarily out in the streets, but are vital in protecting our communities. Hashtag We Keep Us Safe. Vital in education, like the idea of bringing stories in our radical history to people. So not everybody can, and not everybody needs to be out in the streets. There are so many ways to support and to be a powerful force in these movements. So yeah, definitely, don't think that you have to be out in the streets in order to be a valuable part.
And similarly, I'll get to that in 1 second. But similarly, people ask me, about like what I do, or I wish I had a TV show like you, or whatever. But it's like we all give in our own way if you choose to be a part of changing things. And I think you should figure out what your role is and go after it. So I have never said like, the only thing that matters is to be a comedian that talks about this stuff, or the only thing that matters is the guy who throws the rocks at the window of a place that's bad. No, I think that we each find our role. Some of it's organizers. The true unsung heroes of a lot of these things are organizers. You fucking don't even know their names, and they're running around making connections, finding people, and getting them together to make change. And it's like there's so much that is not really a public thing, and you just got to find your role.
Well, for instance, like Appalachians Against Pipelines. I mean, doing ground support, particularly doing the tree sits. Like these aren't roles that get like a lot of fanfare. It's not like live streaming and stuff like that. But these are vital roles in protecting land, water, air, and our livable future. So. Yeah, I mean, there's a myriad of ways and a myriad of roles that people can take on in order to be a part of this solidarity.
So I had it up here because I wanted to address, although so he was asking how to go to the Patreon. Our Patreon, it does not go to the cause we're working towards tonight, but our Patreon for our podcast, Common Censored, which everyone should check out, is patreon.com/Common Censored. The podcast is free wherever you get your podcasts. So that's how you can donate there. And also, I know some people will watch this after the actual live stream, so they can't be involved in the super chat, and they can't hit that donate button. How do people find Appalachians?
Oh,
Appalachians.
Fuck. You almost made it the entire time.
That's not true. I mispronounced it at least 7 times.
I'm trying to help you. So Appalachians Against Pipelines are on, they're on Instagram. If you go to Instagram, Appalachians Against Pipelines. They're also on Facebook, facebook.com/Appalachians Against Pipelines. They're on Twitter at Stop the MVP, which is the Mountain Valley Pipeline, which is the pipeline that they're fighting. So do check that out. And again, all of this is going to, all of the money raised tonight is going to Appalachians Against Pipelines, who are a part of the radical resistance that is a part of West Virginia. As well. So check that out. And my new film is at hardroadofhope.com. It's available on a sliding scale. Would love for you all to check it out. And
so this is the last minute. If anyone wants to give in these last 2 minutes, then please hit the $ below the comments and all the donations, and I'll announce how much we made next week. All the donations are going to Appalachians Against Pipelines. So please, last minute, if anybody's been holding on to that $1 or $2 that they want to give to the awesome cause, then feel free to throw it in now. But it's been incredible hanging out with you. We are always looking for ideas, topics. Now that I know live audiences, I don't get to interact with people, so this has been great.
Yeah.
And I really hope we can do this more often. Our podcast is called Common Censored. If you want to come listen to us every week, that's free to get wherever you grab your podcasts. Mm-hmm. And we do have a Patreon, patreon.com/Common Censored. But that's you guys have been incredible. And I think Ben's asking, was that a dry cough? No, I'm fine. I'm good.
Oh,
but you guys have been amazing. Thank you so much for the donations.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Truly incredible that you've helped out this cause like this. And please, again, everybody check out hardroadofhope.com and watch the movie. Let us know what you think. Please share it with your friends. Hopefully we can get these stories out there.
Thank you.
Thank you.